today's album we are going to discuss is the Bay City Rollers US debut album. So this is actually a compilation album that was released by the Scottish pop band the Bay City Rollers. It was released exclusively in North America to launch their band's career, and at the time, Rollermania was still booming out. Because of this, the band actually went on a US tour in September of 1975. And they did promote their songs here, and a lot of American fans were really happy to see the band performing, especially on stage. And because of this, the compilation, which actually reached number 1 on the RPM Canadian music chart on the 7th of February 1976. This reaches high as number 20 as the US album chart. It included their US and Canadian number 1 hit single Saturday Night. And because of this LP actually contained tracks mostly from the band's first 3 UK-only albums, like 5 songs from Rolling, 4 songs from Once Upon a Star, and 1 song from Wouldn't You Like It. As well as this, there was a brand new song in addition, with the album that actually has a US mix of Summer Love Sensation. It was a much fuller mix with strings, which actually became available on CD with the US release of the Definite Collection. So the track listing, they actually have 11 songs like Give a Little Love, Bye Bye Baby, Shang-a-Lang, Marlena, Let's Go, Hugging and a Kissing in the Moonlight, Be My Baby, Summer Love Sensation, Remember, Shalala, Saturday Night, My Teenage Heart, and a cover version of Keep on Dancing. So 2 of them are actually cover versions of the song, like Be My Baby and Keep on Dancing, while the rest of them, they sang it by themselves as originals. As well as this, yes, these ones, 5 the songs are from Rolling, and they were released in 1974. 4 songs were from Once Upon a Star, and 1 song was from Wouldn't You Like It, the same year that they've actually released. So it was recorded for 2 years in 1973, 1974, and 1975. As well as this, yes, it still remains the same that Eric Faulkner was actually supposed to be on the guitar. But it was a mistake actually, because he was supposed to be on the lead guitar. And the rest of them are actually correct. So there's no changes, except for when, I do recall that Les did play guitar in one of the songs right here on their concert tour in America. I'm not going to show the video because this video is actually copyright. So yeah, that's actually the reasons why I really don't want to show this video, is because sometimes this may block the video, particularly not in all countries, but except in one country, because I've been uploading these videos for for maybe around a year or something. I'm not too sure. So yeah, I think that's one of the reasons why I don't want to show this video. But I think this one is actually pretty good because, in their cover version of the album, in the Bay City Rollers Bebo, which is not active, I do see that there was actually 2 videos of the Rollers with Duncan Foy. So that's actually one of the reasons why it was renamed the Rollers. This is probably one of the reasons why this song was only featured on the Bebo, and the rest of the songs were not here. So I'm not too sure what happened, but who knows. And as well as this, I'm just gonna say that this is the best album along with the Definite Collection. And I think I do believe the Definite Collection was released maybe elsewhere, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not too sure about it, but that one I will have to find out because it's a little bit challenging for me. And sometimes when you don't see that kind of album, you will I thought this album was probably going to be bad. But I don't think it's that bad for me, because this album actually is really good, and I do believe that sometimes when you have this album right here, it's it takes you back to the mid-70s, and that's one of the reasons why this album was still popular. Okay, and as well as this, I would like to say that it's been 50 years since this album has been released, and it's also their 50th anniversary since they went to the US to perform songs for the band. and that was one of the reasons why they were on tour at that time. So yeah, I would just say that song is really good, and actually that one is actually really great for, you know, brains. It's really great for studying. But anyways guys, I think that's all that I can say about this album, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Really sorry about that, my throat's a bit dry. And anyways guys, that's all for now, and this is me signing. Hey guys, it's Wheeling the Gamer Girl here, and today we are going to discuss an album called Rock and Roll Love Letter. So you don't know this album, this is actually another US album that was actually released by the Bay City Rollers. It was only released in North America in early 1976 by Arista Records. This release was actually supported by two singles, Money Honey and the title track, Rock and Roll Love Letter, which both received commercial success on the US Billboard 100. It was later included on their next album, Dedication, which was released internationally. And Rock and Roll Love Letter was actually Alan's last appearance on the US album before he was replaced by Ian Mitchell the following year. So it was released in March of 1976. So that was actually like 1 month before he left the band to do a solo career. And Alan did release his album called I'm Confessing, which was only released as a single and was not really successful. On the 11 tracks for this record, they were actually lifted from the Rollers' 1975 UK release album Once Upon a Star. 7 actually came from Wouldn't You Like It, and 2 were produced and recorded singles. The cover art actually features from the same photo as Wouldn't You Like It? So the album did reach number 1 in Canada in March of 1976. This jumped from no 25 from the position for the single week to depose their previous album Bay City Rollers from the top slot. In the US, it actually reached high for number 31 on the Billboard's album chart. 2 singles from their disc was made onto the Billboard's Top 40, Money Honey, which actually reached number 1 in Canada. It peaked number 9 in the US, and Rock and Roll Love Letter was actually peaked number 6 in Canada 3 months later, and number 28 in the US. This album was initially released finally on the CD along with the Bay City Rollers. It was a 2 LP set in 2011, founded by Wounded Bird Records. So actually all of the tracks were actually released by Eric Faulkner and Stuart Woody Wood, as mentioned previously where it was noted. So Rock and Roll Love Letter was actually a cover version by Tim Moore the last time. I've mentioned this before. So yeah. And as well as this, the chart performance was still the same because Canada and Japan actually reached number 1 in the peak position, while the US Billboard 200 reached number 31. The year-end charts for 1976 reached number 6. So yeah, there's not a lot I can really talk about with this album because, you know, I don't think there's actually a lot I can relate to because, you know, at times that one could have been, you know, not so popular at the time. You know what I'm trying to say? Because I think for myself, in my opinion, that yes, I think not all the songs are actually included on their album, but I do believe that's one of the reasons why it's sometimes included, sometimes they won't. So it actually depends on which album you're buying. And I do believe some of the Bay City Rollers tracks are available in some of the stores. And I'm not too sure if the thrift store would actually provide one because, you know, at times they don't really have this album and it's not really available. So I'm not 100% sure why they didn't sell it. So anyways, guys, I don't want to go through like too much information on why this album is not really selling in Malaysia. I think we all know our reasons why they did this, and if it's not being sold in Malaysia, you just have to accept it that not all bands will tour in your country. Some will, but some won't. So just take it as a lesson learned because normally you'll see the band performing in your country, some of them won't. And I do believe that, you know, sometimes they won't go into your country, but I'm just gonna say this in my opinion, that sometimes it would be really hard to visit them in another country. I'm just saying this in my opinion because I do believe that when we do see a lot of people, when we want to wish for something, it's not really going to happen because it's really far away. And whereas some people would live in Southeast Asia, yeah, it's a little far, so they would actually kind of recommend to stay in Southeast Asia only and East Asia, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, that's what actually happened, because I do believe that there are a lot of bands that tour in Malaysia, you know, the nostalgic ones like Boney M and Air Supply. Yes, it was featured in our car radio the last time, and they were going to play somewhere in KL. So yeah, that's actually one of the reasons why they did it. So yeah, I'm just saying this in my opinion because I've been seeing this a lot of times, you know, that they don't perform exactly in your country because sometimes they could, you know, shift to one side of another. So yeah, that was actually one of the reasons why they really don't do it. And because of this, you must accept the fact that not all bands will actually perform in your country. Some will, but some won't. So just try to accept the fact that it's not always like that, you know? Sometimes they can be bands trying to perform in your country. Sometimes, you know, there'll be bands that can't perform in your country because it's not popular. But you need to really accept the fact that this will go on until you know about it. I'm just, you know, not trying to be rude in here, but sometimes it's like that. Because I've been seeing a lot of bands before not performing in our country, and sometimes they'll only perform in certain parts of the country. Like, for example, the Bay City Rollers are really popular in Japan, and I do believe that's the only country that they perform in Asia, not anywhere else. But I think in the US, UK, Australia, and the US, yes, it's more popular here than in Southeast Asia. So I'm just saying this in my opinion that, you know, even if this album wasn't available in Malaysia, I do believe, you know, YouTube is still available, and it saved the day for me because I don't really have that album. But, you know, at that time, there weren't a lot of Bay City Rollers albums or comics back in the 70s, and they only costed like £1 at that time because they couldn't have like a lot of the fancy magazines at the time. But now, since technology developed, yeah, you can just read them online instead of buying it physically. And that's what we did the last time in the Gen Z period. But even though like some Gen Zs don't really listen to old songs, sometimes they prefer K-pop or other popular songs, that's okay, that's their choice. And because of this, I'm not trying to be rude to anyone, but this is the reality. When you get CDs like this, sometimes we all have different opinions whether to listen to the music or not. I may be an oldies girl along with the popular generation, and that's okay with me. But I'm not trying to be rude to everyone because this is what I've been seeing in real life. So yeah, that's what actually happened. But anyways guys, I think that's all for the video, and I'm gonna sign off.